you get child leave, don't you? Parental leave, where you get, depending on the country, anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, to focus just on that child, and you still get paid, right? Why isn't there a business leave, a startup leave? Because a business is like a child.
Yep. I'm definitely an advocate for the entrepreneurial journey because it turns you into something. You are actually the thing that gets transformed. You don't realize it, but you become such a more resilient person, a more empathetic person. It's a beautiful and wild coincidence that we actually live not far away from each other at all, like 10 minutes down the road.
Yes.
But no, it's been a sort of pleasure meeting you, and just to carry on from what you said before the camera started rolling, we thought the cameras were rolling, was just sort of the entrepreneurial journey, and how that can be quite an isolating one sometimes, and the ability to earn income online, etc., etc.
It gives a lot of freedom and flexibility. What I mean by that is you can live anywhere in the world, earn money on your terms.
Yeah.
But because there's so few of us, there's very few that can relate to it.
Yeah.
I think you're with me on this one. I have friends, the only close friends I have are the ones that were with me in high school. Now, I never went to university, by the way. I'm a dropout, right? But because I'm the only person I know in my immediate social circle that kind of, quote unquote, made it in my own sense, in the flexibility realm, right? When I want to go on holiday, everybody else is busy in their work schedule, and it never really matches. And I think you sort of might feel the same way.
100%, man. I think what's actually happened is, from school, and I can sort of bring it back a little bit. Like, I was always sort of seen as the class clown, like a little bit. I thought of myself as stupid in a lot of ways, because that's what my teachers would tell me. They would be like, "You're never going to make it. You're in the set 7 of science.
Cool.
You can't do maths to save your life. You need all of these extra teachers and all of this extra work." And so in my mind, like my reality, I was like, okay, well, I didn't get hit with the smart gene in a way. And so it was a lot of that sort of stuff that I had to deal with, when I eventually did leave school and get into the workplace and get into university and stuff. It was almost my image I had of myself. And that was fine, like when I was in that box. But, slowly through, I guess, just realizing that a lot of the stuff that I had been taught, or the things that I've been told about myself, were just other people's, insecurities and projections onto me, and a way to sort of control me in a lot of ways. I think what ended up happening, like, along the entrepreneurial journey is like, it's such a process of self-development in a way, because you are basically creating things, you're putting things out there, especially if you're, not going down a traditional path. It puts you in situations where you're like, holy crap, like, I don't know what to do here. You got to figure it out. You're in no man's land pretty much. And I think what ended up happening was, just from my experience, and I'd be curious to hear what it was like for you, but in doing that, like, you grow rapidly at periods, because you've thrown into these situations where you have to try and figure it out. And so growth starts to happen, and you start to develop a bit more self-confidence as you go through this thing. And then eventually I was like, you know what, I'm not actually as dumb as I was told I was. And so I was like, okay, wow, maybe, some other things that I was told growing up weren't true. And so I was like, okay, starting to get a bit curious as to, like, what information, or how can I actually educate myself, but like take control of my own education, because the education I had at school was a very set one, right? And I hated learning at school.
Yeah. Did you follow a conventional career type path out of school, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I was pretty bad at school. I always loved art. Like, I love painting. That was kind of my thing. And so I basically got into university to study fine art.
Sure.
And so I changed it last minute, because I was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to go study fine art. Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. And then I changed it to graphic design and communication. And so I went in to university, went through university, like really barely sort of engaged with it again. I was like struggled with those sort of setups. But anyway, I ended up getting picked up by a design agency in London, a branding agency, which again was a great experience of the bat, because a South African boy in London, big city lights and stuff, was super, super interesting. But I learned pretty quickly that was not a lifestyle that I wanted to live, and it was, again, it's just that sort of boxed
9 to 5.
environment, 9 to 5, drinking culture after work, go down to the pub, sink, 5 pints, get up with a headache and do it all over again, and sort of sit at your desk for 8 hours, like on your phone, sort of pretending to be busy. And like I might have like one logo that would take me 20 minutes to do now. Like I would drag that out over like 2 days just because I didn't have anything to bloody do. And so eventually I was like, well, this is so stupid.
Because you're not getting paid for results, you're getting paid for your time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's sort of the thing I realized the hard way in a way. I was like, okay, wow, like, I am never going to make any amount of money beyond the amount of time I can spend in this job right now. And so I asked them, I was like, can I have a raise? And they came back and they were like, raised it by like £1,000 a year. I was like, what? From already a
very
majorly, dude, I was a junior designer, like making absolute peanuts, man. So
yeah.
Eventually I was like, you know what, I'm going to go freelance. And so I left, and then so I went, because I was kind of doing some freelance stuff on the side when I was there anyway. And then I picked up a few clients. I was like, cool, I'm just about paying my rent. And about 3 weeks after I left, I got a call from that company saying, Luke, we need your help. The guy who replaced you just quit because he said it was like way too hard, like what you're doing. I was like, okay, sweet. Well, this is my freelance rate now. And so they brought me in. I walked in like, oh, my head all held up high, like sort of getting paid, completely, a lot more than I was in that situation. So, but yeah, man, that was sort of my last experience of that, because that sort of started the entrepreneurial journey.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that, especially because before I'm where I am now, where I have the stuff that I have, I was also in the consulting game, if that makes sense, and sort of dealing with clients. What I found to be the real challenge for me is actually scaling myself, because I can't, the skills that I'm sure you have it as well, and the skills that I was developing related to copywriting, related to creating ads, related to running successful campaigns, etc. It's very difficult to clone that into staff members, clone that into people underneath. And, when you're dealing with clients, now it's like, okay, do I go for volume, so increase my number of clients, but then I can't spread my head across 10 different clients at the same quality, and so my quality will go down? Or do I stick to one client, but then the title is I'm an agency, I'm a quote-unquote freelance.
Yeah.
But in the end, I'm kind of their employee anyway, and it's just packaged a different way, right? And so that for me was where I was like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Instead of selling sort of not being able to scale myself, why not create something that I say it once, I broadcast it once, I create it once, I film it once, whatever. And whether it's 100 members, 1,000 members, 10,000 members, it's the same delivery. Yeah. And that to me was, at least for me, my big shift. Did you find similar problems as that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said there sort of summarized it perfectly. It actually reminds me of the time when I was running an agency, working for a suite of clients, and exactly what you said, I'd almost traded my employment job for another employment job, except I was the boss of myself. I just created another job for myself, and I was actually working double the amount of hours, and income was not sort of guaranteed. And so it was a funny trade and a funny jump, and it was the exact same experience of sort of being at the whim of clients. And it got to a stage where it got pretty damaging, because I think I had a few experiences with clients where it would get really sort of toxic and challenging. And I think deep down, like I have people pleasing tendencies, like and that's sort of something that I'd struggled with. And so I would really sacrifice a lot of my time. Like if a client called me, I'd be on, and I was like, okay, no, like, and my clients were sort of like the hand that fed me, if you will. Okay. And so it was a difficult situation. And I think what you learned, basically selling your knowledge as opposed to your time was actually the magic bullet. And it didn't happen sort of overnight, but it was like a realization that, holy crap, if I ever do want to have any sort of freedom in my life, if I ever do want to have any sort of financial abundance, not have to stress about bills anymore, and to be able to travel and meet amazing people and actually live, because we forget that's what humans are, actually made to do, is to be free and to have a life of fulfillment. I needed to find a way to be scalable and sort of multiply myself without multiplying my time.
And look where you are now. I mean,
You know,
we met in Bali. Like, you're from South Africa. I grew up in Australia. Two sides of the planet. We're here now.
Yeah.
By the way, what's life like here in Bali anyway for you?
Oh man, it's great. Like, I live life in my board shorts now.
You know, my very first Google Ads campaign that made me something like 600 grand in 6 months, right? I recorded that. I probably have a photo somewhere. I'll try to get one of my editors to put it on. But I recorded that with a business shirt on top, underwear on the bottom, and a little blue screen on the back.
I love that, dude. That's so funny. In like your little pink flip-flops. Yeah, no, it's funny, man. Like, I think, you know, it's been really great to sort of go down that route of being like, okay, well, I'll back up a sec. I don't know if you read this book. It's called The Sovereign Individual.
No, I haven't read that one.
And he talks about this idea, and he wrote this book like ages ago. Maybe might have even been in the 80s, 90s. Don't quote me for that, but like it was a while ago. And he predicted that people, instead of sort of voting for their government based on like mail-in ballots and stuff, but they would actually start voting with their feet, which meant that entrepreneurs, people who are able to work digitally, are going to actually move and location and go to places they're treated best. And actually see there's other parts in the world where you can have a great lifestyle, you can experience freedom, all right? Whereas, you know, the best countries to live in the past 20 years, you know, London, LA, Paris, the you know, European sort of Western-based countries are not the best countries to live in now and the next 10 years. You know, there are actually countries right now where you can have a better quality of life. And, you know, you
Bali is
can...
one of them.
It is one of them, yeah, correct. And, you know, while Bali is not, you know, perfect in every sense of the imagination, but I think it's fantastic for people who, you know, want to come out here and build a brand and experience what life can be like if it's not just sort of the sort of daily grind and the hustle. Like there were times in London where I'd go to work, I'd go to the gym, I'd go to the coffee shop, and like 5 days would pass and my feet didn't touch grass once. I was like, there's something not sort of right about that. And, you know, I think if people are interested in a sort of a move to more of a natural way of living, you know, which is...
I see that as a massive trend.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. And I mean, it's difficult because there are a lot of downsides to sort of tourism and stuff coming here, because that obviously it potentially affects the locals and gentrification and everything like that, which happens in every country right now. I think it's a massive problem, but you know, I don't necessarily know what the solution to that is, but
to me, I some parts of what you said I agree with. So other parts I slightly disagree, and I'll explain why. So for me, I think in general, what you said about Europe, France, etc., absolutely agree. Where I see the exception is if you're part of the class that's rich enough. When you're rich enough, you can actually buy your space,
Correct.
buy your whatever environment you want, almost anywhere in the world, except for like some cities like Jakarta, basket case. Even with money, I would never choose. You know, what kind of paradise can you make there?
yeah,
But that's where I see the exception, and that's where I see like if you want absolute freedom on any place on planet Earth, except for a few basket cases, the real solution I think is to be extremely or wealthy enough to that level where you can actually buy it.
correct,
Right?
yeah,
But for the majority of, let's say, the average person earning either low sixes or high five figures USD right, per year, rather than spend that and sort of consume that money and rent and, you know, $6,000 a month rent in New York, getting a little tiny box space, right? That same money would get you so much further in a country like Bali, in Thailand, in any of these tropical nations.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and it's like that's why to me having your own financial abundance is essential.
Yes.
And you know, I think a big problem that a lot of young men, and I can speak to men because I've gone through this process myself, is that a lot of men potentially find spirituality a little bit too soon, in the sense that they find it and they sort of check out from the actual drive to go out and make something and go out and add and contribute to the world. And you know, the reason I say that is money is not evil. And money is not the root of all evil, okay? And it's just potentially something that, we've been conditioned, and that's sort of the dark side of spirituality, where it's like, no, let's just check out from life. I don't need anything.
Let's become a nun. Let's become a monk.
Let's become a monk, right?
Right.
And so, I don't think that's the solution. I think if more people were actually able to go out and set up their businesses and be brave and, work on things that, they're sort of are called to, and add value to the world in ways that give them more financial abundance and freedom for their families, like I genuinely think a lot of the problems that we're facing right now would start to disappear. And I think a huge problem of what I saw in the UK was that, fear is a huge cloud that sort of sits above that country that stops a lot of people taking action on certain things. Because it's a fear of not having security. Would you agree?
My worldview comes from a little bit from the experiences I've experienced in the corporate field.
Right.
So before really scaling up on my own businesses and sort of living the lifestyle I do now, I did have an experience with a ultra high net worth individual's company directly to that guy. And so I was there in the context of improving sales. We took his monthly revenue of 150 grand a month up to about 450 grand a month within 6 months.
Awesome.
But that was only part of the deal. The other, so again, it's like, the title is agency freelancer, but actually I ended up being almost like an employee. And then I realized I was like, well, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But part of that experience was he would come to me very often with the problems he was facing at the time, because he knew that my head was pretty switched on. And one of the issues he had was, well, how do I sort of manage my top talent in my team so that they keep performing more and don't piss off somewhere else or retire early? Because if you have a really good employee, you don't want that guy leaving. If you can raise their wage or salary or bonuses or commissions, great. I mean, they're making you more money, that's fair. But it's at a certain point, they can buy their house outright, they can buy their car outright, they can pay their kids' tuition outright, they can pay all their expenses outright. And so the hunger dies down.
Yeah.
The motivation to keep performing at top level and further dies down.
Yes.
The incentive to quit early, retire early starts to appear. And so you have a paradox. It's like, I want people that are top quality, but I also don't want them leaving. If I don't increase their pay, they're going to move to another company, somewhere else. So now we got a paradox. And so we had this conversation of how do we create systems to control assets of the company, assets being the people.
People, yeah.
Okay? And so some of the solutions, it was a multi-factor problem, and the solutions we came up with, I'll explain them one by one. The first one, you raise their salary to a certain level, or salary, bonus, commission, whatever you want to call it, right? You raise their pay to a certain level where they can live comfortably, but they can't pay off things, right? After that, you start paying them in bonuses that look like it's money, but you can't actually save it. So I'll pay your insurance. You can buy a house and we'll finance it and you pay us back through your wages. You can buy a car, we'll finance it, you pay us through your wages. So it looks like you're getting paid more in the form of bonuses, free apartment, free whatever, but you can't actually cash it in. You can't actually invest it. You can't put it into Bitcoin. You can't put it in anywhere meaningful. You have to consume it. So that's one method. The second method, you said beer culture, right?
Yeah.
And the word beer culture. Do whatever you can to create an environment where they consume whatever they earn. So you want to get a higher ranking, you want to be promoted to a higher level. Where's your Chanel bag? Where's your Mercedes? Where's your BMW? You're not going to expect us to upgrade you to a manager level when you don't even have a proper car to represent the company, do you? Right?
Yeah.
Hey, we're going off to a party on Friday. Why don't you come? It's going to cost you $2,000, 20 million rupiah, right? But hey, we're having fun. It's part of the bonding. It's part of the company culture. And so you have all these methods that look like it's part of the culture, but what it actually is doing is forcing a very productive asset to stay at the company.
Wow. Jeez.
And then at the government level, it's, oh, by the way, you're going to give us tax breaks, but go ahead and tax our top guys as much as you want. It makes them stay with us longer, no? Right? And so it's that experience that sort of, for me at least, allowed me to see the world view of, holy shit, it's not just this company. It's every bloody company on planet Earth. every government on planet Earth wants their citizens to be productive
Yes.
until they're dead.
Yes.
Why do you think pension went up in Australia anyway? It went up from what, 65 and now it's 68, 69 or something like that?
Yeah.
Google and put it on the screen editors. But it's increasing to the level where, okay, so you're going to die. The average mortality or age of death in Australia is, I think, 78 or 81 or something like that. And they keep easing the pension age to just maybe 5 or 6 years before that. Right? So what governments want is for you to be productive basically till you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? If you retire early, that doesn't serve the government. They can't collect more taxes. And so what cultures can we engineer to force productivity? And one of them is a culture of consumerism. Another one is fear of anything not endorsed by government. Because, hey, if you see something outside of what we endorse, there's a potential that you could be free. Isn't there? We don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so amazing, dude.
And so it's like, what's the wake-up call?
Yeah.
What's going to open your eyes? For me, it came from School of Hard Knocks and sort of experiencing it real time. But everyone's a little different. And I don't think everybody would want to repeat what I did.
Yeah.
Having a period of time where I was homeless, having a period of time where literally I was waiting for somebody to finish their meal and finish their scraps afterwards.
Yes.
Not everybody's prepared or willing to do that.
Yeah.
But I believe everybody should have that opportunity to at least have a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And realize that, hey, if you keep going the way you're going, the whole system is designed to make you productive till you die.
Correct.
Why would they maintain an unproductive citizen?
Yeah. 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 That's, you hit the nail on the head, man. That's actually such an amazing way to look at that because, you know, I haven't basically articulated it like that, but it's like I felt that. I felt the pressures of that life and I was like, holy crap. Like, you know, even my decision during COVID to want to leave the UK was frowned upon. Any sort of idea to go travel and to do this or to start my business or to, you know, be a brand and to start these things, you know, they come with a lot of social stigma and it almost requires you to be able to step out of that and do it. But I think there is a huge amount of pressure, what you've just explained, caused by that. Well, that causes the pressure that people feel, which stops them from taking action on things that they want to do. Things like their dreams or speaking from their heart or saying what's on their mind.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, if I speak or if I step out of line, you know, I'm going to get slapped on the wrist or worse. You know, I'm going to have my living taken away.
Hey, you're going to get fired if you don't take a specific injection, huh?
Dude, that happened. And thank goodness, you know, thank goodness I wasn't in employment at that stage, you know. So you talk about what is your breaking point? All right. For me and, you know, Danielle, my partner, you know, for us, we were in London and we were living in like a pretty small apartment and we were locked down, couldn't leave the house, you know, a lot of pressure from the people you were living around, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, there was one day where I went for a walk and I went to this park where they had some pull-up bars and I just wanted to, you know, get a little workout in because all the gyms were shut. And I walked up there and they had like this metal sheeting all around the pull-up bars to like basically stop people exercising, right? And so I was like, okay, whatever, screw them. I'm going to jump over. So I jumped over and I went to go do the pull-up bar and I looked on the bar, they had like this industrial grade petroleum jelly had been like rubbed into the bars.
You're kidding.
To stop people doing pull-ups, like completely stop them. And so it was at that point I realized that this is not about our health.
Yes.
They don't care about your health. They're not trying to protect you by locking you down. And so that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. And I said to Danielle, got home immediately, and I was like, we're out of here. Like, we're going. And I think that was a big wake-up call to me, you know, to realize as well, walking around London where it was just, you know, don't kill your grandparents, and then like just a picture of an old person dying, and the extent to which the campaigns around building up fear happen in those places, or what I experienced, was just insane. And I think what you explained was almost like the mechanism, but the feeling that you feel as a citizen in that is just intense fear, because fear is the best way to control a population.
Yes, it's the lowest energy emotion.
Yes.
Where you can still function,
yes,
but you can't think.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, lucky you, as you said, the straw that broke the camel's back, you realized and took action relatively early. Let's trade ideas here.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the steps that the average, let's not say the average, the ambitious Joe could take who's currently in the city, currently 9 to 5, currently in that system that we described, for them to get out of it, to do it successfully, to do it sustainably? What's your version and what's my, let's treat it.
Yeah, sure, man. Like, I mean, I can only talk from my experience and like what I did. And, you know, I probably didn't take the best way possible. Like I had to go down, like you said, the school of hard knocks and like learn things on the way down. And I definitely could have done with mentors earlier on, but in a way that was the journey I had to go on, is just like figure it out. But I think the first thing is just the awareness of, okay, you know, right now, the highest value thing I have to exchange for money is my time. Not being so upset by that just yet, but using that as a resource effectively. So whether that is working on a side hustle, being a freelancer, starting to do more consulting gigs as a first step out of the reliance of employment, until you're at a point where, okay, I feel like I have enough of a net where I can move out of this. And then, you know, what I think is a good next step out of that is to really sort of understand the processes you're taking your clients through, whether it's design or whether you're consulting people, and turning that into, you know, using the tool of video, right? Because video is such a powerful tool to duplicate yourself and effectively, you know, not have to answer the same question 10,000 times.
It still happens.
Right? It does. Watch this video. Shut up, don't ask me the question, watch the video.
I just, in my Indonesian membership, I just grilled one of our members. I was like, I just told you what's going to happen in Bitcoin for the next week, right?
Yes.
And my accuracy is pretty up there. But besides that point, I was like, I just told you what's going to happen this week. And we're talking 18th of October. It's up only all the way through to around March, right? I was like, and then I post that. And then a member just goes, so is this correction time, boss? I'm like, do you read? They keep asking the question.
I know, they do. And it's just like, I think the key to understand is, okay, you basically have to figure out a way and put a plan together to transition from trading your time for money for digitizing or selling your knowledge, because that really is the true definition of what an entrepreneur is. It's, you know, they sell their knowledge, and that's infinitely scalable.
Yes.
All right, because you know, and it's like, okay, what's your roadmap from there to there?
Well, one of the challenges that I've faced in the process of growing people, like, well, you're developed, but I mean from people starting up, is they tend to, and I mean the audience that I speak to in Indonesia, they tend to feel like, but I'm not an expert in anything I feel is worth getting paid for. I don't have the background, I don't have the experience, I don't have the portfolio, and that's always been a major challenge. Not the method, but the fear, or the lack of confidence from the audience member themselves.
So we were talking about like the mechanism of business is relatively straightforward, but the thing that stops most people is what's happening in the mind, right? And the limiting beliefs and the fears, the doubts, the uncertainties, because that stuff's real. And, you know, we need to appreciate the fact that oftentimes, you know, big gurus will say, hey, just do this, just do that. But it's like, oh my gosh, like it creates a lot of, you know, uncertainty in people's minds. And so what I really recommend to people who are going through that journey is to understand that business is just one part of an ecosystem, and the other ecosystem is your personal life. It's what you do outside of business. It's the things that you read. It's the books that you read. It's the shows that you consume. It's the music you listen to. It's the way you carry yourself outside of meetings and, you know, when you're creating content. And so what I basically mean by that is it's a journey of self-development and becoming the person that can earn the amount of money you're trying to earn. You could look at the analogy of any sort of, you know, if you exercise or, you know, you go to the gym, in order to grow muscles, you have to put those muscles under strain. Otherwise, they're not going to grow. All right. And it's the same when it comes to the skill of business. It's like we have to be able to put ourselves out of our comfort zone, whether it's creating a video and talking on camera, whether it's, you know, trying to make your first sale or put a product together or put something of value together that you can actually go out and into the market and sell. You know, it's taking those first little steps and slowly pushing the comfort barrier out and out and out and out, you know, and also understanding that there are going to be times where you sort of retreat back and you take a huge amount of steps forward. But I think the things that's helped me stay in the game is like, I'm playing this long term, and it's not just about trying to make as much money as I can in the next month or, this, that. And it's like having that longer time horizon has really just made it, okay, look, I don't have to, try and rush and be frantic about everything I'm doing, but rather, move at the speed of grace. It's from our mentor Paul, but that really helps me. And sometimes I forget, man, like it's not a perfect journey, it's a messy journey, but that's what life is at the same time. And I really would encourage people to start to get familiar with what makes you uncomfortable. What are the things that are scaring you right now? Because when I first launched my first product, it was a hugely scary process. You could ask Danielle, like I was so concerned about everything you could possibly imagine, but it was only in the process of going forward and continuing with it and having a failed launch and having no one show up to my webinars that I was able to sort of move forward and evolve from there. And I think that's sort of the key thing that I would encourage people to do is like it's a journey of self-development and becoming the person that can have a great business and can experience freedom.
I love the way you described that as well. I'm personally the type of person I am is I focus on numbers. I'm like feelings. And I forget that, the feeling side of things is equally as important.
Yes.
I came from a background of hunger, so I had no choice but to succeed. Yeah. But not everybody's like that. A lot of people are comfortable, comfortably not free, but comfortable.
Yeah.
And to sort of go, hey, would you like to sort of repeat that lifestyle all the way through to your old and retired, or do you want a chance of actually adventuring and exploring what the world has to offer? But then there's a process involved. I feel there's a paradox anyway, if we're talking feelings here. The paradox that I've felt in my own journey is you want the quickest path to lots of money, but you also got to realize that as an entrepreneur, you don't get paid until you produce value that somebody is willing to pay for. Correct. And that could be a lot of effort, work, hours up front with potentially no pay and maybe pay at the end.
Correct.
And so it's that paradigm shift from I'm getting a consistent, definite pay to I might not get paid, but I might get paid.
Yeah.
That is like the biggest stumbling block. And I think that's what you were saying earlier on. You said to have that buffer, to have that sort of financial backing to go. Like the way I say it to my Indonesian crew, so language might be a barrier, but the way I say it to my Indonesian audience is, it's kind of like if you ever had a baby, not us men, but if you ever had a child or your wife had a child, right? You get child leave, don't you? Parental leave, where you get, depending on the country, anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, to focus just on that child, and you still get paid, right? Why isn't there a business leave, a startup leave? Because a business is like a child.
Yep.
It demands attention. It demands basically all your energy onto that thing, that child that you call a business. For maybe a payoff after a year. And governments don't incentivize for it the same way they do for babies. You're incentivized to have a child. You're incentivized to have 6 months of paid leave and so forth. Where is the same support in the business field? There is none.
No, none.
Well, not in most countries anyway.
Well, I mean, even if there is, it's like it's very top level. Like I did business studies at school, but like it wasn't teaching me how to be a business owner. It was teaching me how to be a manager in a business.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So like you really have to be conscious of where you're getting your information from too. And again, this is where the idea of mentorship comes into play massively. And it's like gravitating towards people who are living the life that you desire and they're living the life that inspires you.
Yes. When you hang around bodybuilders left, right, and center, then you're probably going to have a body like a bodybuilder. When you hang around people with big wallets, you're probably going to have at least a bigger wallet than what you have now. Right? Or at least have the habits and the patterns and the code of people that do.
And I will just say that to anyone who's like, oh, well, I don't know any millionaires, but you have access to unlimited amount of books, YouTube, podcasts. You could listen to millionaires every day if you wanted.
Billionaires,
billionaires, right? So it's like, you got to really, and this is where it comes back to the self-development thing, because you have to take this so seriously, like you said it, and have the hunger that your life depends on it. Because it does at the end of the day. Like, do you want to get to 70, 80 years old and have low energy and be like, oh my gosh, I have to go, work a job because I have to, work a job that I don't want to? Or do you want to have free time to research or play with your grandchildren and do the things that you love, right? And so if you can see that, that's like a crazy source of motivation.
Yep.
And then you can start to curate the things that you consume on a daily basis. All right. What are you listening to? Are you listening to gangster rap about death, this, sex, that? Or are you listening to higher vibrational music? And I know that might sound simple, but I used to listen to rap music all the time. And actually, it makes you feel shit if you think about it. All right. And then, what is the food you're consuming? Are you looking after your body? Are you sleeping enough? Because once you get to, the stage where you are making money, and you've gotten through that stuff, you realize that the small margins are in how you actually, how much energy you have. How much energy can you put into recording more videos and being on call for your clients?
But the problem with saying that on camera anyway, is everybody has their own opinion on what's healthy or not.
Right.
Everybody has their opinion on what's good nutrition, bad nutrition, good exercise, not good exercise, and very few people are actually data-centric, meaning they rely on the actual data, not the stuff that's published on the government's websites, but the actual research. Now, funny enough, on that topic, what I found is I'm not the most famous person, but I'm one of the top influencers in crypto, at least, in Indonesia. Definitely one of the most accurate ones. And what I found was I created this sort of community online on Telegram. We post what we're buying, what we're selling, blah, blah, blah. We're making gains on that. Through those gains, a lot of my members are now like, holy shit, Bryan's really accurate. I'm making money. And then they go, what are you eating? What's healthy for you? And now they start to go, okay, so if I say this is what my diet looks like, this is the foods I avoid, these are the foods that I absolutely must take so that I can perform at my top level. And they can see on the content as well. If you look at my Indonesian channel, Mindstack, I was like 102 kilos and super fat in June and backwards, June 2024. And then within 2-3 months, I'm like down to 86. I don't have that big ballooning belly anymore. I'm not six-pack yet, but I'm heading in that direction. And so they can see visually a transformation in a pretty short space of time. They can also see that at least on the crypto side and on the money side, I know how to make money and I know how to make people money.
Yeah.
Right? And then they go, I think he knows something about the medicine side.
Yes.
And on the health side. Yeah. And so I found that to be a doorway into the health side. I don't know if that's the case amongst the English-speaking audience, but I definitely found a big barrier where it comes to medical or dietary advice.
It's interesting, dude. I think when you start making a certain amount of money, and you want to start scaling your business beyond, right, to, whatever numbers you're looking at here. Well, let's just put a number on it. Like high six figures and beyond. I really do think, your ability to wake up in the morning and feel like you have the energy to go into deep work and to focus and to put time into the highest value tasks that you're doing is everything. All right. Because I've had times where, all I want to do is work because I love my work. I'm passionate about it. This is like my baby. Like you said, it's my art.
Yes. And
when I can't go and sit in front of my easel and paint, I feel annoyed about it. I feel frustrated about it. And it's like, okay, well, I can't right now because either I've got a killer headache or, I feel tired from the night before or the food's not feeling right. And so, that is a huge place for optimization. And I think it's something that, I didn't really appreciate until I started to feel how that affected and not only business, because it affects how you actually leave business and go experience life with your partner, right?
Sure.
Which is, again, super important because the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships, as Tony Robbins would say, which I've also seen to be entirely true. And if you're on burnout city and you're running on a gasket, your relationships are going to take a hit. And I think I see a lot of entrepreneurs going down that road as well. So it's a huge balance. And this is why I think business and success is a holistic picture.
It is. But to the uninitiated,
right. Yes.
Distractions.
Yes.
Yes. My best friend from high school. I want him to be successful, and I still, to this day, I want him to have exactly the life that he's dreamed of. Right. And I don't force a specific path or anything. I'm just there to support as needed. I do find that during the process of, okay, so I need to have that buffer, the space of pursuing business. The focus then becomes on getting my body to the right level so that I can focus on business. And so it's like getting busy or distracted in a specific pathway and then forgetting the actual path to freedom. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to hear what you think. Sorry, did you have another?
No, go on.
I'm curious to hear, especially for like the Indonesian audience, like how much of an impact do you believe social media and the distraction of constant phones is having on people actually doing any meaningful work?
Well, are you a consumer or are you a producer? Right. I personally, well, when I consume TikTok, etc., I don't even use Facebook, Instagram. I think it's horrible. But outside of that, when I do consume on TikTok or YouTube, what I'm consuming is what are other people producing?
Yeah.
And how do I fit into that sort of ecosystem and put my spin on it, my angle on it? I don't consume it from the perspective of, haha, that's funny.
I mean, sometimes there's a funny one.
Yeah, okay, fine. The odd one or two. But definitely a larger portion is analyzing.
Yeah.
That's what I think is the key difference. Most people are on autopilot.
Correct.
They're trying to de-stress, they've had a stressful day, a busy day, they're tired. So here's the thing. Part of that whole control mechanism I was talking about earlier, another one is making sure that your employees are stuck in traffic jams. Right? That's one of the things. So that client I was working with, he's worth a couple $100 million probably, right? He was building a tower, a skyscraper sort of thing, like a big 12-story whatever, for his head office in the middle of like absolute center of CBD. And I was like, he was like really happy to buy that piece of land. And I was like, but that's so bad for your employees because they're going to be stuck 2 hours a day in traffic. And he goes, good. I was like, at first I was like, what do you mean it's good? And then afterwards I realized, well, it's good for him because now they're stuck and they have to stare at the brand logo for 2 hours in the traffic jam. And now they wake up early. They're stuck in traffic for 2 hours on the way to work. They work 10 hours or 9-hour shifts. They go back 2 hours. By the time they're home, they're too damn tired to even want to focus on a baby called a business. You don't have talking energy. Nobody has that energy.
No.
Right?
No.
And so they're consuming social media to de-stress for the next day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, just consumption, yeah.
And so the entire system is actually against you, against progress.
Yeah.
Right? In the direction that you need to take.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely agree that having a buffer, whether that's borrowing your brother's rental, whether that's, sleeping in a couch for 6 months to save on rent so you have an extra 3,000.
Yeah.
Right? I think definitely reducing hours is an absolute key, or grouping it up so that you work more, but you're only working Monday to Wednesday or Thursday. You have that extra buffer to actually...
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, dude. And I honestly think the energy thing is huge, and you have a limited amount of attention that you could give to anything in a day. And so if that is spent stressing about getting to work, it's stressing at the job that you're in, it's stressing or spending those attention points on a funny, viral video and so scrolling. Like when do you have time for any sort of inspiration to strike? Because your mind does need to be open, it needs to be free, and we need to allow time for our mind to even have ideas that are creative or of any value whatsoever.
Well, when's enough is enough.
Exactly, right? And so, that to me is a huge problem with the mobile phone and the again, I'm not against it because I see it as a creator and I'm looking for inspiration. Oh, that's an interesting hook. That's an interesting way of doing things. But when you know that you have something you want to create and you're not prioritizing that in the amount of attention you're giving to it, and you're spending that attention on things like PlayStation, TV, and your phone, how are you ever going to give that the time and space that it deserves? Like you said, it's a baby. And before you know it, it's just going to become a drag, and you're going to sit at your desk. You're not going to have any ideas, and it's going to feel uncomfortable because you can't sit with the discomfort of a blank canvas.
Well, that's where I think having a accountability person You have an accountability person and a personal trainer when you want to get fit, whose job is to actually yell at you and go, why the fuck did you why did you eat that pizza? Why didn't you show up, right? Why don't you have that on the business side?
Correct. Yep. And you know, also the funny thing is, like, a surefire way to motivate yourself to take action on anything is to spend money on a coach or spend money on a course, because anytime I've done that, I'm like, I gotta get a return on that investment.
Well, you're good like that. I think a lot of people have.
I know the majority, because I've had people do my stuff and they're like, they buy it and I'm like, bro, where are you? Bro, you just paid for this. Why aren't you doing something? But I swear, if there's something that, if you're listening to this and you can take anything away from it, anything that you spend on yourself, make sure you get a bloody return on that investment. Okay, whether it's a £500 course, whether it's a $50 thing per month, whether it's a $10 thing per month, make sure you're getting a return on that investment. And don't squander that opportunity, because the information is all around us. And it could even be you spending your time watching a flipping YouTube video, because the information's there. Like, information is democratized. Like, what are we doing? Shooting YouTube videos. The value's there. But like, you just need to spend the time to actually go through it, take the knowledge and start to apply it, take action. And so, you know, if you don't have money to spend on a course, you have time that you can spend. And so you can be a skilled investor of your time before you have money to invest in coaches.
Lovely way to put it.
Right?
Yes. I love the way you catch that.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
On the numbers side, because I am a number-centric guy, I think, at least this is my opinion, having a good 3 to 6 months buffer is ideal if you can. And if you can't, then you just got to work with what you got. But actually, even if you don't ever go down the path of entrepreneurship, you don't ever have your own business, you still have a job. And as long as it's a job that pays a decent amount, that you do have a buffer.
Yeah.
There are ways to turn 10 grand of savings into $500,000.
There you go.
There are ways to turn a limited amount of cap. I mean, just look at Leffy, my videographer. I mean, you witnessed it for yourself, right? Turning limited funds into decent funds.
Yeah.
Right. So it is possible to still earn your freedom through the employment route.
Correct.
But you have to resist the consumption culture, the consumption mentality. Having extra to then go, if I can't make myself work for me, at least make my money work for me.
Yeah.
Right. If I can do both, I work for me and my money works for me. That's even better.
Yeah.
But if you're only given the choice of one or the other, then at least make your money work for you. That's a bare minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, you live in a Western country that pays your minimum wage that is definitely enough to get by, plus a bit more.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you can only save $1,000 a month, $500 a month, $100 a month, you can still turn whatever you save into an amount that you can actually achieve a certain amount of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where you go, I wish I had 10 times more when I started than when I did now. I'd be 10 times richer now.
Yeah.
Then you're going to realize, I should probably focus on getting paid on my own terms, getting paid for my value so I can scale myself up.
Yeah.
Right. At least that's my world view of things.
Yeah, I think it's completely accurate. I think it's accurate, and it gives hope to a lot of people. But you know, I'm definitely an advocate for the entrepreneurial journey, because it turns you into something. You are actually the thing that gets transformed. You don't realize it, but you become such a more resilient person, a more empathetic person, a more patient person. You know, provided I've got so many periods of my journey where I'm not proud of. Like, I did stuff that I was figuring it out. Like, and was probably a terrible manager right at the start of my career. I hope I'm better now, but it's that to me is the gold, right? And that to me gives a lot of purpose to life, and it gives a lot of joy to life, because when you sit down and you have that excitement to create something and to put your heart and soul into a project that you're working on, I believe that is what life's about. I feel like this is entrepreneurship today is like the Renaissance 2.0. We're like the Renaissance painters of the olden days, where you have to sit in front of something and you have to create it, and that creation has the power to change people's minds, to influence people, to have impact in society. And so that's why I see this journey as something that money is a great outcome that comes if you manage to do it correctly. But there's so much more on a spiritual level, on a mind level, on a physical level, because what you're doing is you're taking ideas and you're bringing them into reality. You're manifesting them into the physical realm. And to me, there's no more powerful, thing than the process of creation. I feel like that's why we're here on Earth.
Well, speaking of creation, you're about to be a father, and so congratulations on that.
Thank you, sir. You're leaping away, man. You're a few months ahead of me.
It is a beautiful experience, though. But it's only beautiful, FYI, because we're fortunate enough to have the space to focus on raising family.
Correct.
My wife's full-time mom. We were having a meal at a restaurant, and there was a very heavily pregnant woman being a waitress in a very full restaurant. We're going,
it's tough, man.
Not everybody has the opportunity. And it makes sense now why Japan has such a low birth rate. Italy has such a low birth rate. Almost the entire planet.
Everywhere.
Almost the entire planet. And it's because the cost of living and raising a child is so damn high that nobody wants a child. I mean, if you made it cheap enough to want a child, then, I mean, look at Indonesia. Everybody's having kids everywhere. Look at Africa, where it's really cheap. Everybody's having kids everywhere. It's not to say you have to move to Africa. It's not to say you have to move to Indonesia. But you do need to be rich enough in your area, relative to everybody around you, that you can do it while you're still young enough. And if that's something that you want, But having that space and that freedom to actually...
Everything.
You appreciate
everything. And, from what I've been reading in Joseph Chilton Pierce's work, I know you're familiar with him. Yeah. He has a book called The Magical Child, and he talks about the fact that the child's intelligence is being developed even when the baby is in the womb, all right? And when conception happens. And it is so incredibly important to have that, if you can, the safety and the ability to not have horrible stress, crippling stress.
Yes.
Obviously, there's things that you can't avoid, and it's never too far gone. Like I didn't have the greatest birth ever, for example. And Danielle said something the other day, because a lot of stuff does go wrong, and you can't control everything. But it's not the rapture, but it's the repair. And so it's like, if something does happen, if you don't have the best birth possible, if you do have stress, it's never a lost cause. But to go back to places like the UK, where there's declining birth rates, the majority of women over 30 don't have any children. And I don't want to say the majority, because it's probably not accurate.
I think it's more than 50%.
Yeah, but it's high, and it's a lot higher than it was in the past. Now, that is a telltale sign of, firstly, a society that's under huge amounts of financial pressure, can't afford housing. They don't have like you said, the space and the safety to enjoy life and not to be stressed. And that's why a lot of women are struggling to have children, because they're too stressed to do it. They're too stressed to do it. And so, we actually have a friend who moved to Bali, and they were trying to conceive in the UK for months, and they couldn't do it.
First month
moved to Bali, and they had a child immediately. And it's like, oh wow, that's interesting.
We're making a really good promotional video for Bali. Hey,
the tourism, come hit me out, bro. Give me some money. No, but you know what it is? It's the quality of life, dude. And I really do think the quality of life in places like the UK and cities and urbanization is incredibly unhealthy.
Oh, absolutely.
And you experienced it in Jakarta, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Must have been crazy.
I call it slave city.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I tell you what, I think we've probably got enough for this particular session.
Yeah.
Do you think we should wrap up on this one?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Awesome, bro.
Love it.
All the best, man.
We'll have another one another time, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.
See you.